guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I have the first of my 2 Halloween videos I'm going to be doing this year. This is actually a collaboration with a ton of other doll artists here on YouTube, and the only real requirements for this was that we had to make a demon doll, and we also had to use one of the 18-inch Monster High or Ever After High dolls as a base. The talented doll artists in this collab are Stefu Doll, Blurred Colors Art, Lady Dynamite Creates, Crystal's Fantasy, Josephine's Creatures, Cloud Dolls, Harley's Dollhouse, Diamond Za Crafts, The Hatter's Dolls, and K's OOAK Factory. I love how all the dolls turned out, and to be honest, this was kind of a challenging one just because these bases were a little unruly, so check out everyone's dolls. They're all linked down in the description box. So what are we doing? We are going to be doing a demon ballerina, because why not, y'all? I love ballerinas. I kind of had like a little obsession with them when I was younger. I really wanted to be one, and then I got the tutu and I was like, bet, I'm good here. Which is probably for the best because I had scoliosis, so I don't think I would have made it very far in my ballerina career. But yeah, so we're doing a demon ballerina. I have a couple of these 18-inch dolls, which kind of sucks. I like having them, but I don't know when the next time I'm going to paint one of these is, because it was just a little bit of an intense experience. These are just a little bit more unruly than the 12-inch Monster High dolls. I decided to go with Draculaura as my base because, to be honest, she's my favorite out of the bases that I have, so might as well go big or go home and choose my fave. We're gonna get into prepping the dolls. So these dolls are awesome. They are just like bigger versions than the original dolls. They have double joints in their arms and legs, a chest joint. This doll is from the Frightfully Tall line if you're interested in picking one up. We're sort of prepping her how we normally do. So, I mean, basically, I'm cutting off all her hair, and I attempted to pop her head off. So I took my blow dryer and I put it on her head for literally like 5 minutes, and it just would not budge. I do not have the upper arm strength. Papa and Atelier must truly have some impressive guns on those arms, but I do not. So I tried to cut even closer to the head, and then I took an X-Acto blade and I started like scraping at her head to try to get these plugs out. It was truly a shit show, if I'm being honest. I decided, this is good enough, and I took my 100% acetone and I started wiping off her paint. I decided to give her pink hair because I thought that this would take a lot of hair because she is so much bigger than a normal Monster High doll, and I have a lot of pink hair in my stash, so I decided to go with 2 different tones. One's a little bit cooler, one's a little bit more neutral, and I wanted to reroot. I wanted to try it. I thought this would be way harder than it was. It was a little bit difficult at certain points because certain areas around the head were harder to reroot. They were just a little bit, like the plastic was a little bit, or the vinyl was a little bit stiffer, so I just had to warm up the head with my blow dryers in those certain areas. But I think the effect is really nice, and we're going to be giving her a high ponytail. Taking a little pause from the hair, we need to make some horns. So I'm taking a sort of thicker wire, and I'm curling this into the shape that I want. In the past, when I've made horns, I make them a little thickums, so I wanted to make sure that they were the correct, you know, width and all that. So I'm sketching out a circle so I don't exceed this circle. I ended up exceeding the circle, but not as badly as I would have if I didn't have the circle. So there's that. To get the wire through the head, I had to warm up the head with a blow dryer and a needle. I'm just plunging that in and then trying to plunge the wire in. I was struggle bussing. This was difficult, but we eventually got it through, and I glued it in place with hot glue. To build up the mass of that horn, I am using my beloved epoxy sculpt, and we're just wrapping that around the wire. I'm pressing down with my sculpting tool and creating a texture at the very bottom of the horn. I feel like this just makes it look like the horn is growing out of the head. It looks a little bit more natural than if it were completely smooth, at least in my opinion. And I'm taking that sculpting tool as well and just dragging it all the way up the horns to create grooves. I was very inspired by one of maybe Lux. She created a demon look a little while ago, and I'm basically copying the horns from it. moving back to the hair, in the past when I've done slick back high ponytails, the hair tends to lay very flat on the head and it's just not cute. So we're going to be building up the head a little bit with epoxy sculpt. It looks awful here. In retrospect, I probably should have used just like a normal air dry clay. It would have made the head way lighter. So next time I'll keep that in mind. But I'm painting the head pink with some acrylic paint. It looks like worse, but it just looks like braids. But we're gonna be covering it up, so don't you worry with some hair. I have this pink wefted hair because again I have a lot of pink hair, and I'm creating wefts with it. I know that they already are wefts, but those wefts are like way too big and chunky, so we're gonna be making glue wefts. With my tacky glue, I am gluing the weft down next to the hairline up on the scalp. So I'm applying a ton of glue because I want this to lay very flat. We're basically just covering up this whole mass that we laid down with the epoxy sculpt with wefts. I like the tacky glue for this because I tried to do it with normal Elmer's glue and it just like was not sticking at all. And the tacky glue just really helped the hair stick down to the head. The end result of gluing all this hair down is also pretty hideous, but I swear this hairdo comes together in the end. Before we can finish this hair though, I'm going to do the face up. So I spray the doll with 3 layers of Mr. Super Clear, waiting 15 minutes between each spray and wearing a respirator mask. And then we get into painting. Before we can paint the face though, we need to paint the horns, so I'm painting them white, which felt so wrong, but it turned out pretty right, because typically I paint horns black and then I go on top of them with colors, but not today, Satan. Today we're doing them white. I came to the realization kind of recently that Draculaura's eyes are molded sort of farther apart, and typically when I paint Draculaura's, I sort of go with the flow for the eye mold. But I think I like doing Draculaura's with the eyes a little bit closer together. Not anything drastic, but just like a smidge bit closer to her nose. It's my personal opinion that wrinkly eyelids look really nice on dolls, so we need to emphasize those. Today we're doing something a little different. I've been trying to jump out of my box a little bit with eye colors. I know that there's very specific eye colors that I'm very comfortable with and others that I'm not. So I wanted to give her red eyes because it's just very fitting of a demon to have red eyes. We've also just never given a doll red eyes before, and today's the day. For this face up, I wasn't going for any kind of like creepy aesthetic for this demon. I wanted her to be sort of graceful, alluring, and still very pretty. A little mysterious though. Like, she's cute, but she might eat your heart out. So I'm giving her a flush around her face with pink pastel. To color the horns, I'm using pink tones and also blue tones on top of the white. With a deep pink pastel, I tap some color onto her lips. I mentioned in my last video that I've been liking puffy under eyes on dolls lately, so that's what we're doing. I'm taking a warmer brown and I'm tapping that underneath her eye. It just looks like, you know, maybe she's been crying. Maybe she needs concealer, who knows. But I also tapped a little bit of red pastel onto the center of her cheeks and purple pastel underneath her eyes and on her forehead, because we love blotchy blushing here. Add a bit of light blue around her eyes and her mouth and also her horn, like I mentioned earlier. This is my first layer. I'm still on that. It's a little interesting to me to see how people's first, like, second layers, third layers all differ from each other, because I feel like some people get a lot of it, some people just do very basic blushing on their first layer. It's also interesting to see how, like, the amount of layers that people do, how it differs. Like, I use about like maybe 10 to 12 layers per face up. That's counting the sealing sprays though, and the prepping sprays, so like 3 at the beginning and 3 at the end. I do like 6 in between sprays. How many sprays do y'all do during face ups? Let me know. I shaded around her eyes and nose and lips with brown pastels. Me beloved veins. Veins are just with this really light blue colored pencil, and they're branch-like pencil marks around the eyes and the forehead. This pencil is barely pigmented. I feel like that is the trick to veins. A lot of people tell me that they do them too intensely. Use like the crappiest pencil you own for them. I shaded her lips with a wee bit of red pan pastel, and then I was like, you know what, let's do it up big, so I tapped way more on. We love wrinkles here, and we do not discriminate where. We love them on the eyes, and we also love them on the lips, so I am flicking some red pencil up on her upper lip and then down on her lower lip. To further emphasize that shading, I tapped brown pastel on the outer and inner portion of her eyelid. To get the blend of her eye color even more blended, I'm taking pastels and I'm tapping that on top of the color that I already put down. I mentioned in my last video, the BJD face up that I did, that I was watching one of Xanthi's videos, and she does like 3 layers of lip wrinkles on the lips, and it looks really, really good. So she does like a really dark one. Well, first she does like just the normal kind of middle shade, and then she does the deeper shade, and then she does the highlight, and I think it looks great. So I have been trying to do that lately if I can. Like this doll's lips are pretty big because she's a pretty big doll, so I can get all that detail in there. I couldn't fit full eyebrows because her horns are pretty low, so I wanted to give her something. I was thinking about just giving her like no eyebrows because, to be honest, I don't hate that look, but I gave her little circles. I like it. For the pupils, we went with more slit snake-like pupils. A good way to do this and get them really centered is to start with a line and then build off of that. I don't want her to look completely innocent, so I'm making her makeup a little bit darker by tapping black pastel between her lips. She got like a lot of dark going on, so I'm bringing back some of the highlights with white watercolor pencils on her eyes, also around her lips, and I'm also adding a bit of my metallic rose gold on her waterline. We love a pearly glow, so I'm taking some Pearlix pigment. I believe it's Interference Violet, and I'm adding that all over her horns and all over her face. I brighten up the whites of her eyes with some white gouache. I add lines of dark red radiating out from her pupil so that that black line isn't so stark. My past couple dolls, I've mentioned how I really like this fuzzy limbo ring look where I just flick black in various sizes all around the line around the eye, and I'm doing that with this doll as well. To brighten up that pupil, I laid down some purple duochrome watercolor on top. Final stage of highlights that I do around the face are lines of white watercolor, and I'm doing these on top of, but not completely painting over, those lines that we added with the white watercolor pencil. To give her makeup a little extra something something, I gave her a silver cat eye. I highlight her iris by flicking lines of medium pink out from her pupil. She needs lashes, so I took my Faber-Castell black pencil. I love this for lashes. It's very hard, so it gives you very sharp lines, but I am going to be going over top of it with a wet watercolor pencil. So basically just black watercolor. It just makes the lines even darker. It makes them stand out even more. If you're ever nervous about doing lashes or painting lashes, I always spray the doll first and then I do this step, so that if I mess up, which I do sometimes, I can just wipe it away with a Q-tip. We're doing my favorite eye highlight lately, which is this pointy sort of teeth-like looking eye highlight. I like it. I've been giving it to a lot of my dolls lately, and she is no exception. To make the line around the eye look even fuzzier, I'm flicking white between the black lines. For even more eye detail, I added a little flick of lighter pink on top of some of the medium pink lines. I gave her lash line a highlight with my duochrome red watercolor. For a waterline highlight, I added dots of rose gold metallic watercolor. Our final highlights are white ones, and they're just dots basically everywhere to make the face look nice and shiny. We need to add some gloss to them lips, so I'm using my Tamiya or Tamiya gloss. I don't know which one, but I add it to the lips. I do not add it to the eyes. I've had people ask me before why I don't add it to the eyes. It's because it makes them impossible to photograph. Because I add a lot of highlights to the eyes as is, it makes it look like a highlighted jumbled mess when I add gloss to the eyes, so I just don't. I do really like how this doll's face up turned out, by the way. I think it's pretty cute. And it was really fun painting a doll's head that was like so big. Yes, I want more. Well, I don't, because a lot of this process wasn't fun, but painting the face was pretty fun. I move on to body blushing, and I'm just doing so with the same tones that I use on the face, so pinks, reds, blues, purples, and browns. Her body blushing is done, and I think it looks pretty good. Please excuse the continuity error where her hair is done already. Okay, just ignore that because we're going to do the hair now. Off camera, I put her hair in her high pony. It's really hard to do this on camera, but I created a bunch of tiny braids, and I'm gluing them. I'm beginning gluing them at the base of the ponytail, and then I'm wrapping them around and gluing them in place with some hot glue. For the braids that are longer, I'm gluing them initially at the base of the ponytail and then wrapping them around and re-gluing them for the other side at the base of the ponytail, but some of them are a little bit shorter, so for those, I'm gluing them initially at the base of the ponytail, but then when they go to wrap around and they won't reach, I'm just tucking them into the hair. To To add some braids to her pony, I'm gluing some of those braids just in the direction of her ponytail. To literally wrap up that hair, I'm wrapping some embroidery thread all around her ponytail. This will hide all the wefts that the braids left behind. Finished hair! What a queen! I actually really like how her hair turned out. But we're gonna move on to her tutu finally. So I'm using Worbla because I have Worbla out the wazoo, and we're heating it up with my heat gun. I love this thing. It just makes the Worbla so much easier like using it. But I heat it up and I wrap it around her. I wrapped saran wrap around my model 18-inch doll so that this Worbla doesn't stick to it. But we're just forming it around her shape. This is how it turned out. It's a little lumpy, but it'll do. So I'm gonna be painting it gray with some acrylic paint. I bought this real pretty lace a while ago and I haven't been able to do anything with it, so we're gonna use it today. I glued this down on top of the Worbla with my tacky glue. I don't think I mentioned quite why I love tacky glue so much, and like it's a newfound love for me. It dries like the clearest I've ever seen a glue dry. It's extremely clear, and it's very sticky, and I like it. For the skirt of the tutu, to get it to stick out, I'm going to be using foam, and I'm hot gluing that in place on top of the bodice. I think this is what the bodice is. We're hot gluing it there. Oh my god, it's feather time. I hate feather time. It sucks. Working with feathers just truly does suck. But we're gonna do it. It's feather time today. I'm hot gluing them. I have 3 different kinds. I have this like fluffy sort of thing. This is the least sucky feather. It's just the least annoying to work with. I'm hot gluing this all around the tutu. Onto the sucky part, which is cutting feathers. It's just feather stuff gets everywhere. So I'm cutting them down so that they're a little bit smaller. Well, quite a bit smaller actually. And I'm hot gluing this first layer, radiating all around the tutu. After we have a layer of gray, I'm going to create a layer of black. After the black, I create another layer of gray, and then on top of that layer of gray, I create another layer of black, but these ones are very, very small. They're cut very tiny. These tiny feathers should basically have you at the base, or where the bustier, is that what it's called, connects to the skirt of the tutu. We need more feathers at the booba area, so I cut some more feathers. These ones I'm cutting more like typical feathers, so they're sort of your traditional long feather. I cut a gray one, a black one, and then I did my fluffy ones. To make the skirt to top transition a little less unsightly, I'm taking my tacky glue and I'm laying that down. Then I'm taking the fluffy part of the feather, cutting it off and putting that on top of the tacky glue. It is time to bedazzle. So I'm taking my gems, my glorious gems, and I'm taking tacky glue and I'm just putting gems literally everywhere. It's a mixture of clear, kind of diamondy ones, but we're doing those ones the least, and then black and red ones. a billion gems later, and it's kind of a sleigh. I created stockings off camera because I feel like you guys have seen me make stockings a million times, but they're just these little simple things. And every single, like, okay, when I was looking at like Black Swan looks, they all had these cool like feather Johns in their hair, and we're gonna make a feather John. So I took some foam and I cut it in this little weird band-aid shape, and I cut some feathers down, and I'm hot gluing them in place. I'm doing pretty much the same sort of layering thing that I did with the tutu, where it's gray on black on gray. The fluffy thing that I did at the top of the tutu, well, the top of the skirt of the tutu, I'm doing that on these hair things as well, so that the transition with the feathers just looks nice and more natural. These must also be bedazzled with the same energy that we did on the tutu, so some clear gems, some red, some black. Wow, it's giving black swan or black gray swan. We're gonna be, so typically I want to try to like do this so it wasn't permanent on her head, but I don't know how to do that with the box and sculpt base that I have under there. So we are going to be just hot gluing these in place. Again, not my favorite thing to do, but how am I supposed to temporarily attach it with epoxy sculpt on her skull? I decided that she needed some wings, so we're going to be attaching those with a magnet. So I drilled 2 holes into her back. I was going to do 2 magnets, but it was just really annoying. So I decided to do 1. So I am taking epoxy sculpt. I lost the footage of me attaching the magnet to her back, but I just took epoxy sculpt, placed it where I indented or where I drilled, and then pushed the magnets into that. It's pretty easy. I'm using Warbler, and to bend the wings into the shape that I want, I'm heating it up with a heat gun. For this next step, I didn't know what to call it, so I looked it up. We're creating it with some fabric paint, by the way, but apparently like these are, so like the pointy bits, these lines that we're doing, this is like the forearm of the bat, and then the ones that are coming down are fingers for bats. The more you know. But I'm painting over top of that with some pink, and I'm creating a gradient, so I'm going from dark to light with my pink paint. After the paint dried, I took my iridescent medium and I mixed it with some glitter, and I went over top of that. I also lost the footage of me attaching the magnet to the wings, but I basically used the same exact method. I just fixed it with epoxy sculpt. For some stupid reason, I did this after I painted the wings, because I'm dumb. Shoes! So shoes, ballerina shoes are like that. I'm making ballerina shoes. But they're that like weird shape where they're real flat on the end. So we're gonna try to recreate that. I'm just heating up the Warbler and then bending it around the foot to get the right shape. I had to cut it down a little bit because I made the back kind of long, but it's an easy fix. once the form of the shoe is correct, I'm taking the sole and I'm just mushing that kind of on top. I'm trying to get it pretty smooth around, but I'm not super concerned about the shape or getting that real flat top that I was talking about. I'm going to be adding epoxy sculpt on top of the Warbler anyway. After everything is sanded down, I think they look like pretty decent ballet shoes. They're not perfect, but they is what they is. And I'm painting those gray as well. The shoes are the same method as the top of the tutu is, so I'm painting them gray, and then I'm going on top with tacky glue and wrapping that pink lace around it. I hot glued ribbon on either side of each shoe to act as the lace so that we can lace up these ballet shoes. I forgot to add her wings into the shot, but this is her with most of her stuff. I think she looks quite cute. I had to buy a completely specific stand for this doll because currently it comes in tomorrow and she's just flip-flopping all over the place. But it was a challenge, okay? These dolls are a little bit more complicated than, you know, your normal 12-inch dolls, but I think it was pretty rewarding. I wanted to include this shot because since I couldn't get her stand at all, I had to get my husband to hold her up with his finger for the group photo shot. I just thought it was a funny picture. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys like this video. Let me know what you guys are doing for Halloween. What are you being? Did you make a doll? Are you excited? I'm tired. October just makes me sleepy, okay, because I feel like I try to make Halloween dolls and it's intense. But yeah, definitely check out everybody else's dolls. Like I was saying earlier, I think everybody's real talented and everybody did a great job, and this was kind of a challenging project. So they're all linked down below. If you guys like this video, subscribe, it makes me happy, and I hope you guys are having a beautiful day, and happy October, and happy almost Halloween. Bye!